Our speaker for this evening's monthly motivation is Division E Director Tara Bolanda. Tara has been a Toastmaster since June 2012 and is currently serving as President for Prime Timers. Tara is also serving as club coach for Speakers After Hours and Super Communicators. When not working or attending a Toastmasters meeting, Tara enjoys being active and spending time outdoors with her husband and dog Lily. Please help me welcome our speaker, Tara Bolanda.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you everyone who made time this evening to be here. I'm really excited that I've had this opportunity to present at the monthly motivation, and let's get started. Now you might be thinking, another book review. Is this gonna be boring? Am I gonna even get anything out of this? Well, that's for you to decide. But I know what I have to share with you tonight, I found value in, and I think at the very least I would like to share that with you, and then you can decide if you would like to read the book yourself. This is a book review on Doesn't Hurt to Ask, Using the Power of Questions to Communicate, Connect, and Persuade by Trey Gowdy. Now, what I do want to tell you that this is not, is it's not a book report. I am not going to be sharing with you every aspect of the book and analyzing certain parts of the book. I am here mainly just to tell you, share my experience from this book and my thoughts with you. What will I be covering in my review? I will be giving you an introduction of the author and the book. I will outline, I will discuss the outline of the book content, and I will be going over some highlights of the book, some highlights that I thought were highlight worthy. And then I'll also be sharing with you my thoughts on the book and giving an evaluation of the book. Who is Trey Gowdy? I mean, you kind of have to know who the author is before you get into the book. Does he have credibility? Who is he? Is he just some random guy? Well, I would like to share with you a little bit about Trey Gowdy. And I would like to read his biography to you, a little bit about him, and just to give you guys a little bit of background on who he is and where he comes from, because I do think it's important to know that. Trey Gowdy was born in Greenville, South Carolina, and grew up in Spartanburg, South Carolina. He is the son of Hal and Noveline Gowdy and has 3 sisters, Laura, Caroline, and Elizabeth. He graduated Spartanburg High School in 1982, Baylor University in 1986, and with a degree in history, and he also graduated from the University of South Carolina School of Law in 1989, where he was a member of the Scholastic Honor Society, Order of the Wig and Robe. After law school, he clerked for a judge on the South Carolina Court of Appeals and then for a United States District Court trial judge. From 1994 to 2000, as a federal prosecutor, Trey prosecuted the full range of federal crimes, including narcotics trafficking, bank robbery, carjacking, kidnapping, child pornography cases, and the murder of a federal witness. He was awarded the Postal Inspector's Award for the successful prosecution of J. Mark Allen, one of America's most wanted suspects. He also received the highest performance rating a federal prosecutor can receive, 2 years in a row. In 2000, he left the U.S. Attorney's Office to run for 7th Circuit Solicitor, District Attorney, in Spartanburg and Cherokee counties. As 7th Circuit Solicitor, Trey led an office of 25 attorneys and 65 total employees. He started a Violence Against Women task force, a worthless check program, enhanced and expanded drug court, and implemented a drug mother protocol designed to assist expectant mothers break the cycle of addiction. He has been recognized statewide for his commitment to victims' rights and drunken driving enforcement, and nationally for excellence in death penalty prosecutions. In 2000, he ran for Congress to represent the 4th Congressional District, Greensville and Spartanburg counties. While in Congress, he served on the Judiciary Committee, Oversight and Government Reform Committee, Intelligence Committee, Education and the Workforce Committee, and Ethics Committee. He was also chosen to chair a select committee on the events occurring in Libya on September 11th through the 12th, 2012. While in Congress, he actively participated in numerous congressional investigations, sponsored bills signed into law, and had deep and meaningful relationships with scores of colleagues on both sides of the aisle. After 4 terms in Congress, he announced he would not seek re-election in 2018 and would leave public service for good, thus ending his career with a flawless record in the courtroom and undefeated in political races. In January 2019, he returned to his beloved South Carolina to practice law, teach classes with his close friend, Senator Tim Scott, and speak on legal issues he considered important to our country. So now that I've read to you a little bit about who Trey Gowdy is, I would like to talk a little bit about why I chose this book. There's lots of books. Why this one? Why did I choose this? Why did I pick this one? And why did I want to present on this one? Well, the truth is, I saw Trey Gowdy as a guest speaker on one of the late night shows back sometime last year. And I didn't know who he was, but he made an impression on me, and I was impressed by what he had to say. Now, to be quite honest with you, I wouldn't label myself like a political person or someone who's maybe into some of the things that, his past and what he's been involved in. What attracted me to him and his book was that everything he had to say was practical. And I really liked how he was not only relatable, and I felt very genuine and authentic, but he had things to say that I thought to myself, I could use that in my life. I could apply that to things in my life. And so I looked up his book to learn more about This Doesn't Hurt to Ask. Next, I will discuss the outline of the book contents. To break it down, because I want to make things simple, there are 3 parts of the book. We're going on to part 1. What you need to know before you open your mouth. In part 1, Trey walks us through I guess you could say the fundamentals or the foundation before you can really get started with anything else. He talks about self-directed questions and laying the groundwork on the essentials. He helps you land on your objective, know your jury, and establish burden of proof. He also helps you walk through what does and doesn't work in becoming a great communicator. Now, before I move on, I wanted to share something about something I just said. Help you land your objective and know your jury. You might think, know my jury. Well, Tara, I'm not in the courtroom. I don't have a job as an attorney or even any type of job in the courtroom. I'm not really, involved in that. So how would this even apply to me? Well, going back to my comment that I said earlier about how this is so practical, and I like that I can apply it to any area of my life, Trey talks about how what I just said, that you can apply this to any area of your life, from the boardroom to the kitchen, to having a conversation with your spouse, to talking with a coworker, to your boss at work, to a client. It can be applied to any area of your life, not just any person, but any area. Maybe it's inside of work, outside of work, family, friends, just everyday conversations with people. It is practical. And while he might pull from his experiences in the courtroom, it is not just for lawyers and people that are practicing in the courtroom. Part 2 of his book is the act and art of persuasion. He says that once you know the factors from part 1, you can then begin the art of persuasion. In part 2, he focuses on specific types of questions as well as tools that you can use to help you formulate your questions. Some of these tools are the words that you use, repetition, and I just think it's really interesting how he refers to persuasion as an art. And maybe you have heard that before and think, oh yeah, I've heard that before, and that's not anything new to me. But I really think that when I think of persuasion as an art and not just something, that someone who's, really good at convincing people of something is, doing it, to me, I think to myself, this is something that I can do and I can learn and I can become good at. Part 3, go forth and conquer. I want to make a comment about my picture here. I was looking up pictures because when I put my slides together for a presentation, I like things to be simple. Just maybe a few words and a picture. And when I was looking up go forth and conquer, I thought I was going to find all these like army pictures or like, these like men like fighting, not some cute little sweet bird saying, arise, go forth and conquer. And anyways, yeah, I really, really like that. But in part 3, Trey shows you how to put the art of persuasion into action in your everyday life. And again, it's just and reinforce that everything that Trey has to say throughout the book is practical. You can apply to any of your area of your life and you can use it on an everyday basis. Some things that you'll explore in this book are, and again, there's a lot of information for this presentation. I'm just kind of hitting some of the key points. How to persuade, why it is the most worthwhile skill set to adopt. I thought that was really interesting. One of the most worthwhile skill sets. I mean, there's a lot of skill sets that people have or try to obtain, but knowing that this is one of the most worthwhile really shows the importance and the value of persuasion. All the tools you can equip yourself with to become persuasive on the issues that matter in your life and with the people that matter in your life. That's cool to me. That's neat. I mean, if I can have a skill set or a tool that I can use that will affect my relationships with the people that matter most to me, I think that's a win-win. All right, now for this slide, I have a comment about this picture too. Highlights of the book. For my presentation, I wanted to call on some highlights. Like I said, there's a lot in this book, but I think that there are some that are highlight worthy. I was trying to find a cool picture and all I could find was the logo from the highlights books back from when, you were a kid. So I was like, what the heck, Tara, just use it. It says highlights, it gets your point across, that's what matters. All right, some of the key points. These are, okay, before I continue any further, I also want to tell you that I'm usually a book, like a hardback book person. I really like a solid physical book that I can like turn the page in my hand. And the library was all out. And so I decided, you know what? Like, I'm not gonna wait. There was like 7 holds on it. So I said, I'm just gonna go ahead and do the audio version of the book. And I did. And I don't usually do that. But what I wanted to call out about that is that I had so many notes that I was taking when I was listening to this. And usually I like to highlight things in like a physical book, but I had to take a lot of notes down. And these are the ones that I wanted to share with you that resonated with me and stood out the most and I thought were important to call out. The most effective persuaders listen as much as they talk. That was interesting to me. The most effective persuaders listen as much as they talk. Yes, I know that listening is very important, but I don't always, I mean, to me, when I'm thinking of somebody that's, that persuades me to do something that maybe I wasn't going to initially do, that's not always the first thing that stands out to me, is that their listening skill. The most effective persuaders ask as many questions as they answer. I also found that to be interesting. Thinking about, again, as I was reading this, I was trying to think about who in my life would I consider to be someone that's really persuasive, someone that doesn't even really have to try to convince me of something, or show me something that maybe I look at differently. And I didn't really think of that, but the more I did, after I thought about it some more, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Asking questions to get to your point, maybe. Some more key points. This next one is probably one of my favorites that stood out to me. Asking questions in the right way at the right time may well prove to be the most effective tool you have when it comes to moving someone closer to understanding your position, or simply moving others closer to one another. I never thought about it like that. Trey has a way of showing you that persuasion, and you'll see here in my next comment, it's not about winning. It's not about winning at all. It's about really bringing us closer together. And I have a totally different view of persuasion now, and just the art of persuasion, and and what my thoughts are. To be able to move someone closer to understanding your position, I mean, I just think that this is awesome to be able to have these tools to be able to do that. Again, persuasion is not about winning an argument. I mean, if you'd asked me before I read this book, what do I think about persuasion, or what comes to my mind? Well, it's the person who wins. It's the person who wins an argument, right? They won because they were, but it's not about winning. You can be persuasive, but that doesn't mean that your goal is to try to win the argument. And then I put a little note that this was big for me. That really was something that I took away from this, that I definitely, it definitely was a key point for me. You want to effectively communicate what you believe, why you believe it, and perhaps why others should adopt your position as well. I'm going to read that one more time. You want to effectively communicate what you believe, why you believe it, and perhaps why others should adopt your position as well. And I think, to me, it also this key point right here made me think that it's not about just trying to get to your point, and just trying to switch them to say, oh yeah, you're right, but that's not what it's about. And being able to do that effectively and helping others to understand what you believe and why you believe it is important. Okay, I want to share with you my thoughts on this book. Oh, and by the way, I was having issues with my last slide here, and I now this is just a little advice to those of you who are putting together a PowerPoint presentation for a speech. If you ever get stuck on a picture, just move on. Don't spend a lot of time like I did. And Jamie, you're going to appreciate this. So this my thoughts picture was not my first choice. All right, I had two other pictures that beat out this picture for my top two choices, and I couldn't get them to go into this slide. So long story short, I called Jamie. I'm like, Jamie, I need your help. I need to get this like picture into the slide. I want this picture, not this one, obviously. But long story short, she was like, well, just try a different picture. It might be an issue with the actual picture itself, not the PowerPoint, because obviously it works on one of my other ones. And what do you know? She was right. I got it to work. And I told my husband, I was like, hey, honey, guess what? Because I had asked him to come in here, and I just got frustrated. He said, don't worry, I'll just figure it out. So I told him what Jamie said, that, just try another picture. You know what he says to me? He's like, Tara, I told you the same thing. And I'm like, oh, maybe you did. I don't remember. But basically, he was frustrated that he said the same thing as Jamie, but I listened to what Jamie said. Anyways, yeah, it was good if you were here when it happened. But basically, my thoughts on the book, because that's kind of what this is about. Just tell you what my thoughts are now that I've kind of given you a very high level overview of the book. I want to say listening to a book on audio was an interesting experience for me. And I'm going to start with that because I do think that it can kind of affect your experience when you're reading a book. In this case, and I've been told by others that it's not always true of every book that you have the actual author reading the book. In this case, I did. And Trey Gowdy has an accent, and I kind of like, I don't know, just kind of made it just more authentic and real, like hearing from the author himself read it. I really enjoyed that he had so many life examples. I'm a big example girl. I love examples. Don't just like preach to me or teach me something or just say facts, but I love it when there are examples. And I really felt that all this stuff that Trey had to say from the courtroom and some of these cases he had and trials, and they were really interesting in talking about when he was a young boy and just some of the stories he had to share to go along with some of the points that he was making throughout his book. I thought were really interesting, and it made it more enjoyable for me, and I was able to listen and then visualize in my head these stories he was sharing. But that was probably one of the things I liked the most about it. It's I don't want to say an easy read, meaning like it's like kindergarten level or anything like that, but I feel like it's something that anybody could read and you would get something out of it. It's not only for a certain group of people. And I definitely think for us Toastmasters, I would recommend, picking up the book or, getting it on, I got it on Audible, and giving it a listen, because it's definitely something that I will be probably rereading again. I feel like I'm one of those people that I have to read things a couple times sometimes. You can't just read it once and be like, okay, got it. Maybe some of you can, but for me, I need to read things so I can digest it and then maybe read it again and see, is there something that I missed the first time around? I really liked how Trey kind of broke it up into the three parts, like I had mentioned earlier. I think that kind of helps see how, these chapters kind of, this was the kind of the point of this section. And then the second one, you really need that first one before you can go into the second one. And same for the third. I thought that, I don't know, it was really, I don't read a lot, I'll be honest. I had heard Trey again on the late night show once, and then I was really intrigued by what he had to say, looked up his book, read his book, and then decided to do this for the monthly motivation. And through this experience, it's made me think, Tara, maybe you should read a little bit more often, because there are some really, really good, not just books, but, there's a lot of, good people out there that have a lot of good things to say. And I personally, I am motivated through this read, because now I feel like I have these tools that have always been there, but now that I know and I know how to use them, I can be more effective in my communication with others, in my relationships. And that's really what it's all about, relationships. Because if you can, whether it's at work or at home or both, I think that having these tools will really help make your relationship stronger, and yeah, you'll be good to go. And I would definitely like to hear from others if you've read this book, or if you have anything to say about it. But that is my evaluation for the book. Doesn't hurt to ask, and I encourage you to check it out. Thank you.